This is the OTB Television Network, a service of Capital District Off-Track Betting.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America, the day before the day before the day, as it were. There will be no morning programming here on the network tomorrow or the next day, so this is our last visit before Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody out there from myself and all the folks associated not only with Racing Across America, but with Capital OTB in general. Have a great holiday. Coming up today on the show, our regular Monday morning visit from Mike Penna. We're going to look back at some of the stakes action from this past weekend. A little after the bottom of the hour, we will be joined by Keith McCalmont from Woodbine. Going to do a little recap of their Woodbine season, which wrapped up about a week or so ago. Before we go anywhere, just want to give a tip of the cap to my loose on the lead partner, Steve Bick. He was in here yesterday with a $500 bankroll live here at the Clubhouse Racebook all Sunday afternoon. You were able to follow it via the Capital OTB website. Images of his tickets were posted all day long, so you could follow. Nice day. Steve comes out with a profit for the day on a chalky day down at Aqueduct. It was hard to squeeze anything out, but he managed to hit the early pick five, both pick fours, I believe, the early and the late. Hit a crafty daily double down at Gulfstream. He was playing mainly Aqueduct, but took a couple of shots at Gulfstream as well. And there was one of the kitten horses won a race. It was a horse I had used as a top pick as well on handicapper support yesterday. That was completing a daily double for him. And if you saw that race, it was probably the 7th or 8th race. And again, it was one of the kitten horses for Ken Ramsey. And a ding-dong battle to the wire. That 50 yards from the wire, I didn't think the horse was going to win, and had gotten past, came back to just get up for a nose victory. And that was a $100 double for Bick, and he had $3 on it, I think, so got 150 back there to help his bankroll. And again, hitting those picks on a chalky day, didn't knock it out of the park price-wise, but communicated with him during later in the day. And as he noted, there was some scratches on those pick fours, which then in the last leg moved the scratched people to the favorite, depressing the price even further, fairly significantly. So made a profit, had a decent day. The 25 people who participated all got a little something put into their Capital OTB account. So again, a nice fun bankroll day for Steve Bick yesterday, who was hitting pretty regularly. Again, it was just kind of a chalky day. So wasn't a huge profit, but anytime you can walk out with a profit, it's a decent day. Bick did it. He was taking shots and ended up making money at the end of the day. So very interesting, again, with the picks, pick five, couple of pick fours, the nice double down at Gulfstream. All of that adds up for an interesting day, not only for Bick, but for the folks who came down here and participated and had some fun. We have another bankroll coming up, another $500 bankroll coming up this Friday right here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Come on down. Starts a little later in the day on Friday. Brian Nadeau of HorsePlayerNow.com will be hosting and managing the bankroll. Again, a $500 bankroll. 25 patrons will be randomly drawn at 2:30 on Friday afternoon to participate. Come on down. Things will kick off, and the handicapper are going to be placing wagers between 3 and 7. So you would expect, the last half of some of the East Coast cards. Certainly the Santa Anita card is going to be included in there. So should be fun. Again, Friday, right down here at the Clubhouse Racebook, another bankroll, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Early yesterday morning, I guess. In Japan, they ran the Grade 1 Arima Kinen, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But it was notable because it was the career finale for Orfev. If you haven't been paying attention to international racing, really a top-class Japanese horse. Orfev won the Japanese Triple Crown, not 2013, it must have been 2011 or 2012. Anyway, won the Triple Crown, was the Japanese Horse of the Year. I think it was 2011. Last year was their champion older horse. 2012, 2013 was the runner-up in the ARC. And so Efev yesterday, and again, our time it was early, Saturday night into Sunday morning, very early. Efev gets it done in the Grade 1 Arima Kinnan and does it fairly convincingly. Going to try to get a replay of that race later in the week. At this point, I checked it out yesterday on the Japanese Racing Association website. Nice website, a lot of comprehensive information. They do a great job. The only video replay had a Japanese call. Typically, you can get an American call, and there was a note on the website that the American call would be posted on Tuesday. So since we won't be back here in the studio doing the show until Thursday, we'll try to get that Japanese race and watch the career finale of Efev. And if I have it right from the past performances, I have to make sure, because I'm not positive if it's U.S. dollars or not. I think it was. Efev has $15 million, which makes sense because some of these Japanese races are for big, big money. And again, it's a similar situation to Hong Kong, and there's very limited racing. They bet a lot into it. That juices up the purses significantly, particularly for some of these stakes races. So it's not a huge surprise. For instance, yesterday's race, I know because they parse it out in U.S. dollars. Yesterday's race was worth over $4.5 million. So I guess the 15 million, but still pretty incredible. Efev gets it done in the career finale. We noted on the handicappers report earlier, Fairgrounds canceled yesterday due to heavy rain. They ran the first three, and then they canceled the rest of the card, heavy rain. I bring that up mainly so I can also remind you again, Parks is canceled for this afternoon. And they've just been, they've been snake bit. They have not raced in a couple of weeks now down at Parks with the wet weather, the snow, freezing weather and whatnot. It has just had a detrimental effect, obviously, on their racetrack. They're scheduled to race tomorrow, but you would have to think that's kind of dicey because the weather over the past couple of days has been enough that you probably could have gotten a typical racetrack in shape. I'm wondering if they've had some problems that are maybe a little bigger and more notable. And given that Christmas would be off, will they take tomorrow off and try to continue to work on things? But we don't know that for sure. We do know Parks is canceled for today. Parks potentially will run tomorrow. I will remind people, Capital OTB closed tomorrow and the next day, but if there's racing tomorrow, if Parks does run, you can bet via capitalotbbet.com. You can bet online on the wagering platform. Fairgrounds scheduled to run today, but again, did cancel yesterday, partway through the card. Didn't get a chance to mention this at the end of last week. I brought this news in Friday, I guess. I had it tucked away. But John Velazquez scheduled to come back and get back on horses. Been cleared to start exercising horses within the next month. And I bring this up because yesterday, after the Harlan's holiday down at Gulfstream Park, who was in the winner's circle presenting the trophy? John Velazquez. So he's made the move to Florida and looks to start exercising horses within a month or so. That will follow some physical therapy. Obviously, he had that spill out in Southern California in the Breeders' Cup, subsequently spleen removed. He's just been on the mend since then, but he got the okay to start some physical therapy. He's quoted in the article in the Racing Forum as saying he doesn't quite know what that'll entail, but he'll wait, work his strength up, and then head to the racetrack, start working some horses and slowly work his way back, then get to the afternoon and do some races. But as he said, he's going at it very logically and cautiously. Even when he gets to the afternoon, he'll do it slow and steady, start out with a couple of mounts a day maybe, and then work his way back. Certainly, by the time we get to Saratoga, I'm sure we'll see John Velazquez in full flight, and we certainly look forward to that. Looked good in the winner's circle yesterday, handing out the trophy to the Harlan's Holiday winner. So we wish him the best. John Velazquez on the mend, headed back to the racetrack. Other jockey news. This was kind of interesting. David Flores is on his way to ride in Singapore. David Flores, a longtime Southern California-based jockey, switched his tack just within the past month or so to Fairgrounds, and really has been doing very well at Fairgrounds. And it's notable because he had teamed up a number of times with Steve Asmussen, which you have to think you're plugged in at that point if you can get tied in with that team. and have a good season down at Fairgrounds and then maybe move to one of the circuits where Asmussen has some horses. You would think that would be a great way to go. But Flores got an offer from Singapore, a couple of top outfits. Flores had ridden a few days earlier this year in Singapore, and made some connections, enjoyed it. Now we're going to be going to ride at Santa Anita's opening day on Thursday, and from there we'll move on to Singapore, and he'll ride there at least the first half of 2014. Could be there longer. But again, I found that news interesting because it seemed like he was in a good spot down at Fairgrounds. He'd made a very smart move, but now he's going to head to Singapore, at least for early 2014. Other jockey news: Tyler Bays, Pat Valenzuela getting ready to return to riding at Santa Anita. Pat Valenzuela, obviously the star-crossed rider, plenty of talent, but controversial career. He's been off for a while. He said in the Racing Forum article that he just decided to take some time off. He said he'd gotten ill in October and thought he would take a break during the autumn. Didn't have any Breeders' Cup mounts, so just decided to take some time off. Said my knees are good, my mind is good, my body is good. So Pat Valenzuela, scheduled to come back at Santa Anita. Also Tyler Bays, a guy who early in his career showed a lot of promise, and then he's another one of those guys who got into some substance abuse problems that led to some suspensions. He's been given the okay from the stewards, though, went into a rehab program, and now is scheduled also to come back at Santa Anita. So a couple of more jockeys added to the jockeys' rooms out there, and a couple of guys who in the past have shown some talent. So we'll look forward to them returning with the opening week at Santa Anita. Speaking of Santa Anita, did want to mention, we alluded to it on the Handicappers Report earlier, but they have announced that they are going to be doing a 18% lowered takeout daily double each racing day. They'll have 3 of those on the racing cards out at Santa Anita. Again, it will be 18%, which is a lower takeout than is usual. As Anthony Mormino noted on the Handicappers Report, though, and I said in response to him, this is kind of a head scratcher, they're maintaining the $2 minimum on the daily double, which I can't quite understand. And that's nothing new. The daily double out in Southern California has been $2 for forever, I guess. But whereas most racing jurisdictions have switched to the $1 minimum, and Santa Anita on some bets is at that $1 minimum, the daily double isn't one of those. And I always think it's a mistake. And this is one of the reasons I like the 50-cent pick 3. They have the 50-cent pick 4, and you can play into that. And then you get past the first leg, you can kind of back up with maybe a 50-cent pick 3 with a couple of horses you weren't able to use. And it's the same situation with the double. If you're playing a pick 3 and you get through the first leg and it's now kind of, let me back myself up. Well, for the you're playing a 50-cent pick 3 for a $2 increment on the double. It's hard to do. And a number of times I've jumped in at Santa Anita, maybe even I've done a 50-cent pick 4. You get through the first 2 legs and you think, yeah, the double. There's a couple of horses that are interesting to me at prices that maybe I'll throw in and back myself up a little bit. At the $2 increment, though, it becomes maybe a little bit prohibitive. So in this day and age of the $1 and then the 50-cent bets, I think it's kind of an anachronism to stick with that $2 minimum. But if you're a daily double player, they have lowered the takeout out there 3 times a day. They will offer this lower takeout daily double at Santa Anita starting on Thursday. All right, we're going to head to our first break. As noted, when we come back, we'll be joined by Mike Penna from the Horse Racing Radio Network. We'll take a little look at some of the stakes action from the week past. Before we do that, though, as we go to the break, I'm going to take a look at just a starter allowance race from this weekend. Why is it notable? Because it was race number 11 on December 22nd, 2013 at Hollywood Park, making it the last race ever at Hollywood Park. I thought it'd be interesting to look at this just to hear the call and what Vic Stauffer decided to do with what is going to be a memorable and iconic call, the last race ever at Hollywood Park. Did a nice job. He didn't go too elaborate. Gave it the appropriate attention it deserved. We will watch the entire last race at Hollywood Park. I'll also tell people again, talked about this yesterday, if you go over to Equidaily, there are some nice links, memories of Hollywood Park, including the 2007 study they did in an attempt to make this have this property go on the historic landmark tally. And that turned out, that ended to be all for naught. But this report that they put out in 2007, I have it linked now, great comprehensive history of Hollywood Park and Southern California racing in general. So again, if you go over to Equidaily, there's some great history of Hollywood Park there. But part of that history now, the very last race, last night at Hollywood Park, Vic Stauffer with the call, and appropriately enough, it will come down to a photo finish. It'll be number 5, Woodman's Luck, with Corey Nakatani being the winner. Corey Nakatani now goes in the books as the last jockey to win at Hollywood Park. So taking us to this first commercial break, the last race at Hollywood Park. When we come back, Mike Penna of the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Inside on the outside, last to load. The field of 12 is in place. They're at the post. They're off. Anything's cooking, wins the break. Tommy Danziger away in second. Depreciable is in the center, and inside on the outside is 4 wide. Then Poshke and Dan Derrick, Moonlit, Meteor, and Twin Six. Mr. Candy Bar is third last. Woodman's Luck second to last. So Elite is back at the back of the pack with Soul Candy as they turn past the barns for the final time. Stables that have housed racing immortals like Seabiscuit and Citation and Swaps and Native Diver. Affirmed, John Henry, Lava Man, and Zenyatta. Up the backstretch they run. Just over a half-mile left to race, and Anything's Cooking is the leader. Inside on the outside is second by a length and a half from Depreciable and Tommy Danziger. Moonlit Meteor is between horses. Poshke is midfield with about 5 lengths to make up. Then comes Dan Derrick. He's got 7 to come. So Elite to the outside. Then Woodman's Luck, and the trailer is Soul Candy. They run around the far turn and turn into the stretch for the final time past the lakes and flowers. They straighten away. 1938 to 2013. A final eighth of a mile. 75 years down to 12 seconds. Depreciable is the leader. He's a length and a half in front of Dan Derrick. Woodman's Luck in the center of the racetrack. Depreciable reaches. Woodman's Luck trying to gun him down. Depreciable, Woodman's Luck, Depreciable, and Woodman's Luck. A photo finish in the final race. It comes down to a camera close-up. 75 great years at Hollywood Park. That's a wrap.
I'm Mark Cassano. Join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch. We'll inform, analyze, and welcome in the biggest names in racing. So join me Saturday mornings at 10 for Down the Stretch, right here on the OTB Television Network.
Here in upstate New York, no one provides bettors with more wagering options than Capital OTB. Our network of branch and easy bet locations stretches from the mid-Hudson Valley all the way to the Canadian border and west to central New York. So whether you need to place a bet, fund your Capital Bets account, or watch the next big race, all the action is just around the corner. A full list of our branch and easy bet locations can be found online at CapitalOTB.com. Capital OTB, the better and most convenient choice for wagering in upstate New York.
Wagering at CapitalOTBBet.com is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Capital Bet TV, the fastest and easiest online wagering experience where you can monitor 5 different tracks simultaneously. 2. Capital Bet Express. Its straightforward program layout and interactive handicapping information lets you build your wager quickly and efficiently. And 3. Capital Bet Pro, designed especially for the professional horse player. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Hey, race fans, head down to the all-new Clubhouse Racebook and get in the game. With live horse racing on more than 250 flat-screen TVs, state-of-the-art wagering terminals, fantastic food and drinks, An amazing Vegas-style atmosphere with seating for nearly 900 of your closest friends. Conveniently located at 711 Central Avenue, right off Exit 5 of I-90 in Albany, the Clubhouse Racebook is the better choice.
I'm Anthony Mormino. Join me weekdays at 9 for the Handicappers Report. We'll handicap the top tracks across the country and help you prepare for the day in racing. That's the Handicappers Report, weekdays at 9, only on the OTB TV network.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Monday morning means a regular visit from Mike Penna of the Horse Racing Radio Network. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Seth. Happy holidays.
Same to you and yours as well. And Mike, as we went into the break, we watched the final race last night from Hollywood Park. I thought Vic Soffer did a nice job as they came under the wire. 75 years at Hollywood Park. That's a wrap. Did you check out any of the Hollywood racing yesterday? And were you as melancholy as everybody else?
Yeah, I did. And I made sure that I tuned in for that last race as well. It was something that, you know, as a racing fan, you really wanted to see that because it is kind of sad. Lafitte Pincay, the son of Hall of Fame rider Lafitte Pincay Jr., joined me earlier this week on our HRN Live programming, and I thought that he summed it up perfectly when he said that it feels like somebody died, and then you wonder, after they're gone, if you ever really appreciated them the way that you should have. And that's kind of the sense that I got as well in talking to a lot of people in the industry.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate. There was the article in the Racing Forum this week, Matt Haggerty talking about, you know, the chase for slot machines, and that wound up, you know, not happening. We've seen that happen across the country, and it has affected racetracks in various ways. But certainly in my lifetime, I've been a racing fan for a while now. So early in the career, Bowie disappeared. Now, they've had those lists appear in some of the articles over the past couple of weeks in relation to the closing of Hollywood. And Bowie has disappeared, and up in Chicago, Sportsman's Park. And, you know, these happened in my lifetime. But certainly, this is the biggest, most iconic racing facility to disappear in my lifetime. And it is kind of sad. And this past week on the television side, I've been showing some of the big races over the years from Hollywood Park. And boy, Seabiscuit. And then most recently, you know, we had horses like Zenyatta, but Affirmed winning out there. And I had forgotten they had harness racing out there. I showed Niatros winning out there. And you just look at the list of names and things. And it's sad. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it is, and you know it will be missed. It's going to leave a void in the industry. And when you went back and found those race clips, I'm sure there were no shortage of outstanding races that you could choose from, because all you have to do is look at the Hollywood Gold Cup over the years and see some of those horses, and then go back to the likes of John Henry. You mentioned Seabiscuit and Affirmed and those type of horses. Most recently, horses like Cigar and Skip Away and Game On Dude and Lava Man. I mean, all part of that lore and that mystique of Hollywood Park, and it is going to be sad now that it won't be in existence anymore.
Yeah, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens out in Southern California, and we were joined on TV yesterday by John White, and I talked about this earlier. He brought up, and to me, I know Los Al is going to come into the mix, Los Alamitos, and John thought that could wind up to be a nice positive because of their location, Orange County. They're going to expand. They're going to make it a mile track. And he mentioned, I didn't realize it, but years ago they actually had thoroughbred racing. They had a couple of weeks of fair racing. And he thinks it may draw in a new crowd. It may be in a good location. So maybe there is a positive out there. We'll have to keep our eyes on it. At this point, though, things are certainly going to be in flux for a while out in Southern California. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. Mike, I do want to bring up, you talked a little bit about some of the programming on the Horse Racing Radio Network over the past week. And I have to bring up, because I talked to you, last week or a couple of weeks ago, I said, have you ever had Chris Richard on Trainer Talk? And you said no. And there he was this past week. So I would certainly tout people to go to the archive. I listened this morning, and I only got partway into the Richard interview, but you had Seth Benzel to start the show and Chris Richard, both of those very interesting to me, because Benzel, I think he still has a house up in Saratoga. He and his father had worked on a house together, and so I think still must spend part of his time up here, but of course last winter was over in Dubai. Great conversation with him, getting into the game out in the Finger Lakes area and taking us now through last winter in Dubai and whatnot. And then I listened to the start of the Richard interview, and he's got a great story there about going to a bush track in Louisiana with his grandfather.
Yeah, and when you keep listening, he tells a few more stories throughout that interview that were just outstanding. And I want to thank you, because I had never spoken with Chris until that particular interview. And I had so much fun hearing his story, which was so unique and so different from a lot of the other trainers that I've had the chance to talk with on that program. He was just so candid and so upfront about everything, and he loves the game, and it came through. Seth Benzel in the first half of the program was also outstanding. You're right about his house in Saratoga. He's also now tied into the racing in Dubai with the Dubai Carnival. He's getting ready to head back over there. And two individuals that were so much fun to talk with. I could have spent 2 hours with each of them and never had a loss for words. They were outstanding. So I would highly recommend that if folks are into those type of interviews, that they go back and listen, because it was really, really fun.
Yeah, I second that idea, because like I said, the Richard was very funny when he said, I hope my mother isn't listening, and then he relates something from like 40 years ago, and he said his grandfather takes him to some bush track, and by some miracle, he winds up riding one of the horses and wins the race as a kid. He said, I never told my mother to this day, so that was great. But again, Horse Racing Radio Network Archive, check that out. Mike, let's take a look at some of the action this weekend. You know, it was a little bit of a lull, perhaps, but there was certainly some fun races and some horses that are, I think, going to be a little bit fun to watch as well. We'll start with one of those by going to Gulfstream's Dania Beach. This is for 2-year-olds on the grass, a mile on the grass. This race is always kind of fun to me. Grade 3 event, $100,000 purse. We're going to watch the stretch here. It is the number 7, Mr. Speaker, that's going to get it done. At a kind of generous 10-1, I thought. This was a horse coming off a win up at Belmont for trainer Shug McGaughey and the Phipps. And this is a 2-year-old that, according to the follow-up by Mike Welch in the Racing Form, Shug McGaughey potentially going to move to the dirt with this horse next time.
Well, and if you look at his pedigree, you can see why that would be a viable option. He's the son of Pulpit out of an unbridled mare. So not only should he absolutely relish the switch to the main track, but he should love the longer distances as well. So a very interesting horse as we look toward the Kentucky Derby and the road to the Triple Crown starting next year. I thought he showed a tremendous amount of maturity for a young horse. He showed a new dimension in winning from off the pace. Keep in mind, his maiden win at Belmont last time out was wire to wire, so this was a whole new dimension for him. And I thought he showed a ton of courage. And it was interesting, when they were going up the backside, he kind of tugged jockey Jose Lezcano up into position and got him up into the race. And I'm wondering, you know, if they're going up the backstretch and he's making this big move, and I'm thinking, boy, this horse isn't going to have anything left for the stretch. But Jose was able to settle him down, kept him down toward the inside, and he squeezed through that tight opening coming to the final eighth of a mile or so, and really showed an awful lot of courage and maturity for a young horse. So this horse has some heart, he has some ability, and he certainly has a pedigree to handle the dirt and the longer distances, so it might be one to keep an eye on. Yeah,
it should be fun. Adds another nice 2-year-old to the Shug barn. Of course, he's got honor code. We talked yesterday a little bit and laughed, saying, boy, we were all kind of feeling sorry for Shug when some of those nice grass horses he had, some of those big names, went to the sidelines. But he seems to be reloading very nicely now, so Mr. Speaker adds to that. All right, let's look at shift over to Fairgrounds now. They had a great afternoon of stakes racing on Saturday. First up, we're going to look at the 2-year-old races, the girls and the boys, because Brereton Jones has the winners of both of those races, and I think there's some breeding here that says these horses have some potential worth paying attention to. First up, we'll look at the Letellier. That was for the 2-year-old fillies. They're going to go 6 furlongs on the dirt. Going to be the number 4, Divine Beauty, getting it done for Rosie Napravnik. And if you look on the bottom side, there's some nice black type siblings to this one that I think say Divine Beauty could have a little bit of a future. And I think the win Saturday, you know, it was a short field, 8-5 favorite, so she was supposed to win, but she did it the way she was supposed to do it.
Yeah, she really did, and it was an extremely professional effort under Rosie Napravnik. And you're right, the combination of Brereton Jones and trainer Larry Jones has always been lethal, especially this time of year and in the spring down at the fairgrounds. But this filly just relaxed perfectly off the pace, and then when Rosie said go, she just took off and opened up. The fractions were relatively quick, so she seems to be a filly with a high cruising speed. She won going wire to wire in her debut at Churchill Downs in September. Remember, when she did that, she went 21-1 for the opening quarter. So she has a lot of early speed, and I love the way that she relaxed and settled and showed that she doesn't necessarily need to be in front in order to win her races.
Yeah, it looked very good. Napravnik, Brereton Jones, as you say, Larry Jones. And we go to the boys' version a little bit later in the day. And who is it? It is Brereton Jones and Larry Jones. Again, Kerwin Clark on board, though. This is the Sugar Bowl for 2-year-olds going 6 furlongs. We're going to watch the stretch run here. It's going to be the number 3 Albano getting it done. But again, same connections, trainer and owner, and breeding that, again, is a little bit interesting, as this one is related to the very talented Mark Valesky.
Yeah, this is all Brereton Jones breeding and his Airdrie stud here in Midway, Kentucky. Divine Beauty, the filly we just talked about, a daughter of his stallion Divine Park, and then Albano, a son of Istan, who you mentioned Mark Valesky. Istan also the sire of Mr. Bowling, who won the 2012 Lecomte Stakes. So there is a lot of pedigree power here. And this is another horse that really just had everything his own way in the Sugar Bowl, but did it in a very professional fashion. And that's something that, with these young horses, I always like to see at this time of year. You typically have so many that like to be out front, and they can't slow down, and they don't rate really well. And you just know that those are the horses that, if they don't figure it out and don't learn how to relax, they're going to have some issues moving forward when the distances get longer. But Albano, able to sit a perfect trip just in behind Cajun Cat, who set the fractions, and then when it was time to go, really took off nicely and finished up very well. I thought that was very impressive, the way he finished.
Yeah, I think both of those are going to be fun to watch going forward. And, of course, there is a great series for the 3-year-olds in New Orleans at the fairgrounds. We'll have to keep our eyes on that because, as I say, there's some breeding and the right connections that I think these horses are going to be fun to watch going forward. One of the horses, and I mentioned this on the Handicappers Report earlier, speaking of keeping our eyes on horses, well, this horse is maybe in the opposite direction of one that flies a little bit under the radar and hard to believe for a horse that now has well over $1.5 million. Going to look at the Tenacious, $75,000 purse, 3-year-olds and up, going 1 16 miles. We're going to watch the stretch run here and watch the number 3 Prayer for Relief get it done for Steve Asmussen and David Flores. Comes out of a poor performance in the Clark, but of course the Clark was Will Take Charge and Game On Dude, so a couple of salty performers at least up on the front end of that. Earlier in the career, of course, in the Bob Baffert barn, this horse had run off kind of the B-level derbies in his 3-year-old season, won the Iowa Derby, the West Virginia Derby, the Super Derby. But again, and I think that's what added to the bankroll. But again, this is probably one of the nicer horses you're not aware of that has won well over $1.5 million, Prayer for Relief.
Yeah, I would love to own this horse. You talk about a solid, reliable horse, and he's a very solid Grade 3 type of runner. When you look back at what he's done throughout most of his career, you're right, he's kind of been playing at the B level, so to speak, with not competing very well against Grade 1 company, but when he's in against Grade 3 company and listed stakes company like he was on Saturday afternoon, he's a very tough customer. And if you were willing to draw a line through his last 2 races, that one in the Clark Handicap last time out where he finished 9th, and then the Homecoming Classic where he faced off with Fort Larned the race before that, if you draw a line through those 2 efforts at Churchill Downs, this horse figured to be right there with the company that he was facing on Saturday, and he certainly proved it. He drew off to win so impressively. He's now 8 for 25 lifetime. And how about this for consistency, Seth? He's been in the money in 17 of 25 lifetime starts. So quality runner, always a hard knocker. He always shows up with his game. And again, if you forget those last 2, he was a very, very logical horse in this spot.
Yeah, no question about it. Now in the barn of Steve Asmussen, as noted, started the career for Bob Baffert, but they've picked their spots very nicely this season. Again, the couple just prior to Saturday over at Churchill, not so much. But other than that, it's been a very, very solid year. And, Mike, I do want to note, again, David Flores on board. And I was kind of shocked when I read in the racing form, David Flores going to head to Singapore, head to opening day at Santa Anita, from there Singapore, ride the first half of the year, only because he made the move to Fairgrounds and seemed to have teamed up recently with Steve Asmussen. And it seems to me like, boy, if you got that going for you, why would you leave the country?
Yeah, I know. Well, David Flores has always been in my opinion, he was one of the more underrated riders in the game. He's extremely good. He actually rode the very first horse that I ever owned a piece of was Bongo Racing, a horse called Rush Rush. David Flores rode him to a win in his debut, and it was a tremendous ride. And I've always liked David Flores. I've always thought he was a tremendous rider. So to see him trying new things and expanding and going outside the country, why not? I mean, he's accomplished so much. You're right, it's hard to walk away from that relationship with Steve Asmussen and the live horses he's going to have here in this country, but I commend him for taking that shot and going and giving it a try.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what he does over there. He had just a brief stay over there earlier this year and did okay. Now an extended stay. It'll be fun just as a United States racing fan, just from a parochial standpoint, to see a guy like that go overseas. It'll be fun to root for him and keep our eyes over on that Singapore racing. But like I say, it seemed like he was doing really well in the fairgrounds meet, and tied in with Asmussen. It seemed like once the fairground meet ends, you'd say to Steve, "Where do you want me to go, Steve?" And then you're all lined up. But yeah, we'll see what he does over in Singapore. Mike, again, always appreciate the visit. Got to wish you a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We'll talk to you next week, certainly. But once again, I want to tell people to go over to the Horse Racing Radio Network archive. Catch that interview from last week, Seth Benzel and Chris Richard. A lot of great info there as well. When do some new things start to appear this week on Horse Racing Radio Network?
We're going to take Christmas off, and then we'll be back on Thursday with our HRN Live programming, Thursday and Friday. We will have our Brisnet.com call-in show on Thursday and our ExpressBet Stakes Preview show on Friday. So it'll be business as usual Thursday and Friday. Saturday, our Equine Forum show from 8 to 10 a.m. We've actually started a farm tour where we're visiting many of the top farms in central Kentucky over the next 6 or 8 weeks. And this Saturday, I'm going to be live from Castleton Lions, which, of course, is the home to Gio Ponte and to Justin Phillips. So that's going to be a fun visit Saturday morning.
And speaking of that, I saw you were out with Ken Ramsey last week. That's got to be a tough interview, right? It's tough interviewing Ken.
It was very difficult. You know, he showed up and he told me, he said, I'm a little tired this morning. I was up late last night, so I might not quite be on my A game. And I think I introduced him and said, Ken, good morning, how you doing? And for the next hour, I went and got a cup of coffee and came back, and he was still going. So that's the beauty of Ken Ramsey. He loves the sport. He's an unbelievable interview, and always a lot of fun to catch up with him. And can't thank him enough for having me out there at Ramsey Farm.
Yeah, and so I would recommend people for that as well. I've interviewed him a couple of times, and it's the same thing. You just push the go button and sit back and just enjoy the stories. All right, Mike, again, we appreciate the visit. Merry Christmas. We'll talk to you next week.
Seth, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you and to all your viewers as well. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. Mike Penner from the Horse Racing Radio Network. We'll take our next break. When we come back, Keith McCalmont from Woodbine. A little recap of their season, which wound up last week. Stay tuned.
The future of online betting is here, and only at the all-new CapitalOTBBet.com. CapitalOTBBet.com delivers a state-of-the-art wagering experience found nowhere else in horse racing. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Fascinated by the world of horse racing? Interested in honing your handicapping skills? Class is in session. Night school, Monday nights. Easy to access online. It's free, interactive, and informative for the casual and serious race fan. Horse Player Now Buzz. Live horses to watch emailed to you daily. Our eyes, your prize. Night School in the Buzz. Visit horseplayernow.com for details.
Each morning on the OTB TV network, you get the very best in horse racing programming. Weekdays begin with the Handicappers Report, where professional handicappers share their selections and analysis of the day's racing. Followed by Racing Across America, a daily conversation with racing personalities from around the country. Saturdays include Down the Stretch, where Mark Cassano speaks with the biggest names in racing. And Sunday mornings, it's Loose on the Lead, where Steve Bick and I offer news and a unique lineup of weekly guests. All here on the OTB TV network.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today. Missed one of our TV shows? No worries. Now you can catch all your favorite programs online. Simply log on to CapitalOTB.com and click on the YouTube link at the bottom of the homepage. And look for our new podcast coming soon. CapitalOTB.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in here on this day before the day before the day. And happy to be joined now by Keith McCalmont from Woodbine. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good, and Merry Christmas to you and all the folks up there north of the border. Woodbine wound up about a week ago, so I thought we'd do a little bit of a recap of Woodbine racing. Why don't we start out, touch on top jockey at the meet this year was Luis Contreras. Give us a little some thoughts on him and other notable jockey notes from the meet.
Well, Seth, Luis had another big year, 168 wins, $8 million in purses. It wasn't quite the dominant meet that he had in previous years, though, and he was really challenged by Eurico da Silva in terms of purse earnings. And actually, Eurico got more money in the bank than Luis did. Jockey-wise, I really think the biggest feat this year was Patrick Husband, who missed 4 months due to a broken ankle, and he came back strong and finished fifth in the standings. He was on fire in October, won 6 stakes.
Yeah, and winds up number 5 on the list as far as wins are concerned. Also notable, number 6 on the list as far as winners are. Am I missing? No, number 6, Emma J. Wilson, who notable came on the scene and made a splash a few years ago, but still racing very well.
Emma is one of those jockeys, you can't leave her off any of your exotic tickets because she has a habit of finishing second and third with horses that shouldn't finish second and third. So she can really spoil your tickets at 8-1, 10-1 because she just finishes so strong. And for those of you that are on Twitter, give her a follow on at EJWilson81. She's a bit of a prankster, and she really gives you an inside look at the jocks room. She's constantly pulling little jokes on there.
Oh, nice. Okay. And let's shift over to the trainer side of things now. Mark Casse obviously gets it done again and does so pretty convincingly. Reed Baker third, Josie Carroll fourth. Give us some thoughts on the trainer side of things this year up at Woodbine.
Casse dominant as ever. He's, I think that was his 5th in a row, 5th title in a row. He's got 85 wins. Like the next closest was Tiller with 62. Dominant in the earnings side. Casse's still chasing a Queen's Plate. He can't seem to get that job done here for some reason. But he's always a factor on the Derby trail and had a really good 3-year-old captured this year who was in the picture for a while. And looks like he's firing up again now with Conquest Titan and Coastline for next year.
So we'll keep our eyes on him. We'll talk about another one of the jockeys down the list in a moment when we talk about the Queen's Plate, because he had a pretty good day over the weekend as well, one of the other trainers on the list. But I want to shift over to the owner's side of things. Some familiar names certainly within the top 5 as far as number of wins. Melnick, 2nd this year, Oxley 3rd this year, Samson 5th. Again, that's on number of wins. But the leading owner with the number of wins this year, Bear Stables. And I have to admit, I'm not super familiar with them. Can you give us any background on Bear Stables?
Bear Stables is owned by a real character by the name of Danny Dion. He's a guy who made his money in Alberta. Oil and forestry, I believe, are his big things. And Danny Dion's nickname is the Bear, which he got by fighting off a bear. And he's a big burly kind of guy. Kind of looks like a bear himself. And you'll always see him in the winner's circle at Woodbine, wearing shorts and he gives the thumbs up in the winner's circle. So you've probably seen him. But he invests a lot of money into Ontario horse racing. He's got a good young stallion in Kentucky Bear, and you can't leave his horses off the ticket anymore. Those Orange Silks, they hit the board in our stakes races.
Yeah, and again, he was the leader as far as the number of wins, but also notable, he was the leader by a fairly decent margin in the number of starts, too. So again, it's one of those guys who gets out there and plays the game at a high level and likes to win, clearly, and puts enough horses on the track to do it. All right, let's shift to some of the main events, the gems of the 2013 Woodbine meet this year. First up, obviously, one of the highlights of any Woodbine meet is going to be the Queen's Plate. This goes back to July 7th this year. Queen's Plate this year was won by Midnight Aria in a little bit of an upset. Jesse Campbell, Nick Gonzalez, the trainer. Midnight Aria, that was the last start for this one. So as we watch the stretch run here and watch Midnight Aria get it done in the Queen's Plate, you have any update on this horse?
Yeah, I talked to Nick at the end of the meet, and Midnight Aria came out of the plate a little bit lame. And they put the horse away. It had been racing since January at Gulfstream, where they actually claimed him for $35,000. So they claimed the horse for $35K and turned it into $1 million race winner. Gonzalez and Tucci did a wonderful job with that horse. He's going to travel down to Florida this winter. I think he might already be there, and he's expected to race in 2014.
Very good. And coming out of that Queen's Plate also, and we talked a little bit about this before we went on the air, running up the track in the Queen's Plate was River 7, also trained by Nick Gonzalez, but notable because yesterday in the Harlan's Holiday, coming off of, I believe it come off of a turf event, so it was a little bit of a long shot in there, 12-1. My partner on Loose on the Lead yesterday, Steve Bick, gave a little tout to River 7. River 7 gets up late to win the Harlan's Holiday for Nick Gonzalez, who won that Queen's Plate, but then Gonzalez follows up and wins the nightcap at Gulfstream Park, too. So a nice day, coincidentally, yesterday for the trainer who won the Queen's Plate this year.
Yeah, you know, and River 7 is owned by the Tucci family, the same people who own River 7. Who own Midnight Aria. So they just had a fantastic year. Nick is a real horseman's horseman. He's been a leading trainer at Fort Erie for a number of years. He's well respected here. And the key with River 7 was that he just didn't really take to the polytrack so much. But when they put him on turf and on dirt, I think the key race with River 7 was he finished second at Fort Erie in the Prince of Wales to Uncaptured. That was a bit of an eye-opener for Gonzalez. So I think Nick knew he was going to get this horse back on dirt when the opportunity arose. So really good young horse. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to see him back at Woodbine because we don't have dirt to offer.
Yeah, it certainly seemed like that was the key because you go back to that Fort Erie race, which I believe was the last time he was seen on dirt. As you say, a good second-place finish. And yesterday, really kind of impressive. Chaba went by him on the turn and then just kind of ran away. So we'll keep our eyes on River 7 going forward. Another highlight.
He could be back in the Dawn for $1 million.
Yeah, you would think that would be certainly in the wheelhouse, no question about it. Also at Woodbine this year, going back to September 15th, the Woodbine Mile. Charlie Lepresti was kind of debating, go to this one, go to Keeneland, do both. He eventually decided for that last option and go to both of these events because Wise Dan was doing so well. Wise Dan in the Woodbine Mile, going to be the number 4 horse here under John Velasquez. 25 cent to the dollar favorite. We're going to watch number 4 Wise Dan get it done pretty convincingly. And anytime you have a former horse of the year show up at the track, I'm sure this had to be a highlight.
You know, we were thrilled to have him back, and the energy that Wise Dan brought not only on race day, but just through the week being there. The amount of press in our backstretch to watch him train. Josie Carroll's assistant Ruth Schmidt galloped him through the week, and we had a big group of media there to watch him gallop over the turf course. And he loves it. I think Woodbine's turf is made for him. It's a big, long stretch run. He can't get trapped on the turns there, you know, and once he gets set down, he's gone.
Yeah, and it then goes into the Breeders' Cup and wins. And I always think it's got to be, it's kind of a feather in the cap. So I think any racetrack where a horse like this wins, you got to be rooting for the horse just because, well, he's got that Woodbine race on his resume. So that, as I say, that's a little feather in your cap too. When they go on and then win a Breeders' Cup race and then move on also and pick up Eclipse Award. So there's some rooting interest for you guys in those areas, right?
We're really proud of this because this is an ongoing theme, right? We've had big horses come out of the Woodbine Mile, like Court Vision and Tour Allure, like horses who have gone on to win the Breeders' Cup Mile afterwards. So I kind of, we're very proud of the Woodbine Mile, and it's a great race to start at if you're going to point your horse to the Breeders' Cup. And what really got me excited talking to Charlie Lepresti this year, we were watching his horse train in advance of the mile, and he goes, I just love this turf course, and, I in a way, I almost think I should come up here earlier. So if there's some way we can get Wise Dan to come up for 2 prep races at Woodbine, that'd really make my year next year.
Hey, wait a minute. That may take him away from Saratoga.
It's why not come up to the Jewel of the North and maybe get 3 races under your belt and be Canada Horse of the Year.
There you go. There you go. I like your thinking. You're plugged in at least and touting your track. So I can't argue with that. Another highlight on the card was the
finisher in the mile was Approval, Seth, and he
right.
came on big at big odds too in the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, again, that's another feather in the cap coming out of that race. No question about it. Another highlight on the card in 2013, obviously, was the Canadian International Grade 1 event for 3-year-olds and up, 1.5 miles on the turf. And this was just a fun event this year because we're going to watch the stretch run. It is number 5, Joshua Tree, getting it done. Running second will be a horse from the Ramsey Juggernaut, the number 1 Hyper under Joel Rosario. But as I say, this one's fun because Joshua Tree is winning this race for the 3rd time in 4 years.
He loves this turf course, and 2 in a row, third in 4 years, and he does it in different ways. You know, the first time he won, he came from the back of the pack. You know, then he went wire to wire, and this year he was just dominant again. I think that 2 furlong stretch run and just getting clear and being able to gallop on our outer turf course, it really suits some horses. I think a lot of horses get tied up with that sort of short, sharp turns, and our turf course allows horses to gallop, and Joshua Tree is one that wins this way.
And I will note, again, ridden by Ryan Moore, who really, I think, has hit the radar screen of North American race fans this year with winning this race and doing well, Breeders' Cup, and then he went out to Asia also and won some races there late in the year. So this is a European jockey who I think is poised and now stepping onto the world stage as well. And again, another feather in the cap of Woodbine that he comes up, and part of that big year he had was up there in the Canadian International.
Yeah, Ryan Moore was pretty happy with the win. I ran across the turf course with him after the race, and he said he was never in doubt. And Joshua Tree, I don't know if he cares who's on his back. He won it the last time with Satori on him, and it seems whoever gets up is going to win this race.
Yeah, as I say, that's just fun when a horse does that year after year like that. And the year he didn't win, he ran second. Let's just touch on some of the highlights. Any notes, any things that stood out to you, the 2013 meet? I did note that the total handle went down, but the average handle went up. But there were less racing days. So in that kind of a situation, you would expect the total handle to go down. What you want is that daily handle to go up. So certainly the numbers were pretty good for the meet. Give us some other highlights.
Overall wagering for the year was at $400 million, which is pretty impressive, considering we had some negative press to start the year, losing some racing days. $3 million a day is great. I think one of my favorite races of the year came on the Queen's Plate undercard. Queen's Plate Day started out kind of sunny, and by the end of the day, we were worried about getting the race in. It was that rainy, and the clouds just opened up. And for the Sphinxfield, a grade 3 turf race, it was like an absolute driving rain. You couldn't see the horses on the turn, and Forte de Marmy emerged under Rosario at the top of the stretch from the fog, literally, and galloped on home a 6-length winner. And the win photo from that event is brilliant because Rosario is just sopping wet, and you can barely see him on the horse. And it was, for us in the press box watching, we know when it gets rainy at Woodbine, the inside speed bias on the poly track kicks off. And sure enough, a few races later, Midnight Aria from the one hole got out of the gate first and went right around the track, skimming the rail, and won that race over Up with the Birds. It was that was sort of a big special day for us. Big betting day too, with $9 million going through the window.
And again, as I say, I want to reiterate, you lost 25 days as compared to last year. So that the total handle was down, certainly that has to be expected when you lose that many days. But as you said, $400.5 million. So certainly a good year up there. Actually down from last year's 400. It was $400 million. But again, with the 25 days, you had the daily handle that was up. I want to touch on one more race that stood out for me and get your thoughts on that as well. And that was the stakes win by Mike Conquistadori in her maiden effort. And the deal was there. She went over to face the boys in a stakes race. because Cassie had one or two girls in the girls' race that looked pretty good. So he thought, well, I'll take this horse, and in the first career effort, drop her in against boys in the stakes race. Mike Conquistador, very, very impressive in that career debut.
I think starting a horse in a stakes race tells you everything you need to know about what Cassie thought of this filly, and she certainly impressed. I mean, she came down the middle of the turf course, split boys, and got her head out in front, and ears were twitching at the wire. It didn't take anything out of her at all.
Yeah, and she was one that I went on my radar screen immediately, and have kind of followed her, and it's going to be fun to keep our eyes on her going forward as well. Keith, certainly appreciate the visit this morning, the recap of the Woodbine meet. Always some good racing up at Woodbine each and every year. We'll look forward to the 2014 season kicking off, and similar good racing up there. Queen's Plate, the Woodbine Mile, Canadian International, and plenty of other good stakes action and day-to-day action as well. Keith, wishing everybody today a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thank you very much, Seth. Merry Christmas to you and yours and all the viewers out there, and we'll see you back at Woodbine on April 12th.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Keith McCalmont from Woodbine. A little earlier, we had Mike Penna from the Horse Racing Radio Network, and that'll wrap things up for Racing Across America for this Monday morning. Again, there are no, Capital OTB is closed tomorrow and the next day. No morning programming here on the network for the next couple of days. I'll be back in here on Thursday morning. Thursday, of course, the opener at Santa Anita. I have the past performances here for the stakes races. Race 6 on Thursday, the Grade 1 La Brea. Sweet Lulu for Jerry Hollendorfer, who we saw up here win the test earlier this year. Executive Privilege for Bob Baffert. My Happy Face, who we remember from some good efforts early in the career up at Saratoga. The Sir Beaufort, a Grade 2 on the going a mile on the turf, and then the very, very good Grade 1 Malibu, race number 8 on Thursday, with a full and very competitive field. So opening day at Santa Anita on Thursday will be a lot of fun. All right, that's going to wrap things up for Racing Across America. Again, we're here every Monday through Friday from 10 to 11, but the next couple of days are off. We'll be back in here on Thursday. Want to wish everybody out there, for myself, for everybody involved with Racing Across America, and for Capital OTB, wish you a very Merry Christmas, a happy holidays. Have a safe holiday. Take it easy, but enjoy the holiday with the family. We'll see you again back here on Thursday morning.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.